I love Haley, my cute younger daughter, but we don't need a plain older one like Mandy. Maybe we should just give her away to some relatives? My mother's words made my father nod in agreement. Indeed, that would make life much easier. Then we could spend more money on Haley. I knew my parents doted on my cute sister. Yet, I never realized they despised me this much. As I listened to their terrible conversation, I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath me. I thought, Dad, Mom, what would your precious Haley think about this? My name is Mandy. I just turned 15 and became a high school student. My younger sister, Haley, is 2 years my junior and in 8th grade. Even from my perspective as her older sister, she is truly adorable. From a young age, everyone has praised her looks. Not only relatives but also friends who see her would say, "You have such a cute sister, and I wish I had a cute sister like her too." Passers-by turn around, and everyone calls her cute. She's my pride and joy. However, while it was simply delightful when we were younger, things became complicated as we grew into middle school, especially since we attended the same school then. Boys, from my classmates to the younger students, would constantly ask me about her. They would inquire about everything from Haley's likes and dislikes to whether she had a boyfriend or someone she liked, what she did at home, and other private matters. I would often receive letters intended for her. Yet, this became a burden for me. And they would frequently ask if she had responded to their love letters. How should I know? When graduation finally approached, and I realized I could be away from Haley, I was relieved. After becoming aware of her own cuteness, Haley learned how to charm people. Unlike me, who is plain and quiet, my beautiful and charming sister is guaranteed to grow up beautiful. She's very good at acting sweetly. "Hey Dad, I'm going out with friends next time, can you buy me new clothes?" "Again? Didn't we just buy you some the other day?" Well, those turned out to be plainer than I thought. I want something cuter. When Haley sweet talks our father like this, she shows a pouting face if he shows any hesitation. "Oh my, you won't buy one for me?" That face of hers is devilishly cute. Upon seeing that, even my father would laugh it off and say, "Can't help it then." On the other hand, for me, the clothes I have are getting too small, so I need new ones. What? They'll just get too small quickly again, there's no need to buy new ones. Even when I explain the necessity, my father just grimaces in displeasure. My mother would say, "With your plain looks, it doesn't matter what you wear. You're always going to school in uniform anyway. You should just get hand-me-downs from someone." Among them were even men's clothes. A plain person looks plain no matter what they wear. My mother would say, scoffing at me with disdain. This discrimination by my parents isn't new. For Haley's birthday, they prepare a fancy cake. They don't even remember mine. I only realize it's past when the date is gone. At dinner, Haley gets lavish meals, while I get leftovers. Clothes for Haley are new, while mine are hand-me-downs. When I was about to start elementary school, my grandparents said they would buy me a school backpack, but my parents just took the money and never bought it. I ended up with a hand-me-down backpack from someone who had graduated. The same went for my study desk. My grandparents gave the money, but again, it was not spent on me. A cardboard box is enough. My parents said, giving me a cardboard desk that had been used by who knows how many before. When Haley started school, our grandparents gave money to our parents. They added the money from my time and bought a very fine study desk and an expensive brand-name backpack. "Thank you, Mom and Dad," Haley said with a smile. Seeing this, our parents' eyes would crinkle with delight. Haley really is adorable. She's our pride and joy. That's their constant refrain. High school? Just so you know, we won't accept anything but public school. My mother told me when I brought up high school exams. You'll get your uniform from a graduate, as usual. My father told me without even looking up from his newspaper. Let's send Haley to a famous private school with lots of wealthy students. She's cute, so she might even marry into a wealthy family. My mother laughed disdainfully. Unable to attend tutoring, I desperately studied alone at my usual cardboard desk, listening to my parents' vulgar conversations. To them, my cute sister Haley was a golden goose, while I, the plain daughter, was just a nuisance. Even though I knew this, it still hurt. I somehow managed to pass the entrance exam for a public high school, and I sighed with relief. My goal was clear: graduate high school, then either find a job or go to university on a scholarship. I was determined to leave home and free myself from my parents. But even my high school life was at risk. One night, thirsty and awake, I overheard my parents talking in the living room. "It's getting expensive with Haley's tutoring," said my mother. "Yeah, my income isn't that high, and if you worked part-time," she quickly retorted. "No way. I don't want to work. But that will make life harder. That's the problem. I don't want to lower our standard of living. I want to spend money on Haley. Haley is cute, after all." "Exactly, she must marry a rich man's son once she's in high school. That would secure our future. But that means we need to arrange some money." A silence followed. An ominous silence. I didn't know what they were thinking, but they soon came up with a terrible solution. "Hey, isn't Mandy just in the way?" I was thinking the same. Their worst solution yet. "We try not to spend on her, but we can't just spend nothing. Too much and it might cause issues. We don't want trouble. Here's a suggestion." I didn't want to hear the rest. I wanted to cover my ears, run back to my room, and hide under my blankets. But I couldn't move. Stiff as a board, my whole body turned into ears, listening. Unaware I was eavesdropping, my parents continued. "Haley is important, but we don't need her sister, Mandy. Should we give her to some relatives?" "Yeah, let's give her away to relatives." The ground seemed to crumble beneath me. No matter how much they doted on Haley and neglected me, I had thought, just a little, that they still loved me a bit. I couldn't believe they would go so far as to discard me, undoubtedly their daughter. I truly wanted to leave home, to get away from them. It was for my own good, but also for theirs, hoping to lessen their burden. But my feelings were a one-way street. Quietly returning to my room unnoticed, I cried under the covers. I cried and cried, sinking into despair. By morning, my eyes were swollen, but my parents didn't notice. That night, not wanting to see my parents, I locked myself in my room. Then Haley came in. "Mandy, are you okay?" The only one who cared about me was my sister, Haley. Aware of her own cuteness and skilled at winning people over, she was liked by everyone. But that didn't mean she treated me badly. Yet, I momentarily thought it might all be over. Did something happen? Her genuine concern was evident. Unsure whether to speak or stay silent, I decided to talk. The matter was too big to worry about alone. Even if it was just my sister, I needed someone to listen. I might be kicked out of the house. What? Mom and Dad were talking about not wanting to spend money on me, about giving me away to relatives. Really? Yeah, I heard them talking last night. No way. Even Haley was at a loss for words, clearly shocked by the revelation. What should we do? I could only shake my head in response to her question. I don't know. I see. If we were older, perhaps close to graduating high school, things might have been different. But I had just started high school, and Haley was still in middle school. We were still just kids, too powerless. Am I really such an unwanted child? Despite knowing I shouldn't say it, the complaint slipped out, followed by unstoppable tears. I love you, Haley. You are my cute sister, my pride and joy. But this is too much. It's just too cruel. Yeah. It's inevitable that siblings differ in looks, with one perhaps being born cuter than the other. Haley is not to blame. However, with the blatant discrimination from our parents, I couldn't remain the good person who just smiles through it all. It's so cruel, too cruel. As I cried, I looked at Haley's face. Seeing her young, worried expression made me blurt out with tears. I wanted to stay with you, Haley. Both of us were surprised by my words. Haley's eyes widened in shock, and then she said, I don't want to be separated from you either. And began to cry too. Our parents came to see what was happening, but my mother, without changing her expression, said matter-of-factly, "If you've heard, then that simplifies things. Mandy, you will go to live with your grandparents." "What?" "It's a noble sacrifice for your cute sister. As an older sister, you should do at least this much. We can't keep spending money on you." "Right, honey?" "Right. You can still commute to high school from your grandparents' house. It's all been arranged. Pack your things, and you're moving during the next holiday." Were these the words a parent should throw at their daughter? Such a cold farewell. "Haley, don't forget you have tutoring tomorrow." With that, as if the discussion about me was over, my parents addressed Haley and left the room. Left alone, we sisters were shocked, unable to wipe away our tears. A few days later, on a holiday. "Mandy, I'm here to pick you up." With those words, my grandmother hugged me. That was the day I was to go to my grandparents' house, the day I was discarded by my parents. You two are the worst parents, do you understand that? Oh, I'm tired of hearing that. How many times will you say the same thing, Dad? As my grandfather raged, red-faced, my father nonchalantly picked his ears and ignored him. After glaring sharply at my father, my grandmother stroked my head. "It's okay now. You can abandon such awful parents." "That's right, Mandy. It's not you who is being abandoned by your parents. You are the one abandoning them." At my grandmother's compassionate words, a smile unknowingly spread across my face. Yeah. That's right. My heart still aches now. But perhaps one day, I'll be able to forget this pain. I tried to say goodbye, looking at my parents' faces. They were grinning, probably thinking they were finally rid of a burden. Oh, I feel so relieved. Now we can spend more on Haley. Yeah. Maybe we can even improve our own standard of living a bit. That's when Haley appeared. I had wanted to talk to her since we wouldn't see each other for a while, and felt relieved when she showed up. I tried to speak to her before speaking to my parents, but I froze. Haley walked up briskly, carrying a large bag, and stood next to me. "Haley?" As I tilted my head, Haley smiled sweetly at me, then turned towards our parents. "Haley, what's with the big bag? You don't need to say goodbye to Mandy. She's just a stone in your path. You'd do well to kick her aside. Mandy is not a stone," Haley said with a stern tone and look, countering our mother's harsh words. "What? Mom, Mandy is my precious sister, my beloved sister. I've never thought of her as an obstacle." "Haley? What are you talking about? The real obstacles are Dad and Mom." "What?" Surprised by their usually doting daughter's harsh words, my parents' eyes widened. Amidst their shock, Haley chuckled and continued. "Mandy has always pretended to be okay to avoid worrying me, but I know everything. You've always discriminated between us, and now you're trying to kick her out. Did you think I'd stay silent? What are you talking about, Haley? This way we can get rid of the nuisance. You can have more luxuries, wear better clothes, eat delicious food. We can even afford more tutoring so you can go to a top high school. What's there to complain about? It's just about catching a rich man, isn't it? That's. I see right through your plans. I'm not a puppet." Haley shouted and glared fiercely at our parents. They probably never expected defiance from her, and their faces turned pale. As they trembled, Haley smiled sweetly, the smile our parents loved. "So, I'm going to Grandpa and Grandma's house too," she announced. "What? You want to live luxuriously by abandoning your daughters, right? Good for you. Both your daughters will be gone, so you can indulge all you want. Not sure how much luxury you can afford with the measly salaries of parents who'd cut off their own daughters to chase a fortune." With that, Haley turned her back on them. Then she thanked our grandparents. "Grandpa, Grandma, thank you for listening to my selfishness. I'll be in your care from now on." In front of my astonished self, our grandparents smiled warmly. I was surprised when I got the call, but Haley is quite mature. "Your parents are much more childish," Grandma said. "Leave it to us. Kids don't need to worry about a thing. Let me handle everything, Grandpa said, thumping his chest confidently. Those words should have come from our parents. But they chose to cut ties with me to enjoy themselves. Haley, are you sure? It seems the grandparents already knew from Haley, but I was as surprised as our parents. However, joy soon welled up inside me. Despite how much she was adored, I was thrilled that Haley chose me over our parents. Of course, I am, she said, grinning, the cutest smile I'd ever seen from her. Shall we go then? Yes, let's go. Following our grandparents' words, Haley happily walked along. In one hand, she carried her bag. In the other, she held my hand. Wait. Haley, are you abandoning your parents? As our mother panicked, Haley looked back just once and said, "No use for parents who'd abandon their own daughter." Then continued walking. I received no word from our parents, so I didn't look back or say anything to them. Haley squeezed my hand tightly, and I squeezed back. Just like when we were kids, my cute sister was by my side. Afterward, Haley and I lived peacefully at our grandparents' house. They raised us without any discrimination, sometimes gently, sometimes strictly. Occasionally, our parents would call or storm over, but Grandpa always sternly sent them away. Years later, Haley and I became working adults. Once, during our grandparents' absence, our parents made a surprise visit, shocking us with their haggard appearance. Apparently, Dad's poorly managed company, always on shaky ground, went bankrupt shortly after we left. Dad, who had never been diligent, failed to secure another job. They scraped by with odd jobs, but even that became increasingly difficult. "Please help us. We're your parents," they pleaded. But before I could respond, Haley coldly said, "You reap what you sow," and drove them away. Haley's strong. I need to be stronger too. Years later, our grandparents informed us that our parents had disappeared. After selling the house for money, which quickly ran out, they vanished. It was another case of reaping what they sowed. People who trade their daughters for money can't find happiness. It feels like we're finally free from our parents' curse, Haley said, looking down at the baby in her arms with a smile. Yeah. I looked at my own child, sitting on my lap and reading a picture book. I vowed never to become like those people, no matter how many children I have, always to love them equally. Haley must have thought the same. As our eyes met, she smiled with a mother's face, unchanged in its cuteness, and then I smiled back.